Welcome back to Telos, the Purpose Podcast. This is the fourth episode, and today I'm joined by Mullane, an ultramarathon runner who, in September 2025, broke the record for the longest distance ran by an English teenager. The best part? He did just under half with a broken foot. In this episode, we'll go over what it takes to prepare for such a long distance run, how to ignore your body when it is screaming to stop, and the importance of having good people around you. If that sounds interesting, stick around and let me know what you think at the end. Let's get into it. 19 years old, 109.99 miles, one broken foot in 35 hours.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Luke.
Right. So it basically started, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 weeks before. I was on holiday in the south of France, just sitting out in the sun, just scrolling TikTok, and I see a TikTok from this guy called Peter, and he's just broke the British record for longest distance ran by a British teenager, and he did 101 miles, I think. And I was sitting there, I was thinking, because I run ultras, that's the sport I do, and I was thinking, I reckon I could beat that. And so I was thinking, I turned 20 pretty soon, so I have to squeeze it in before then. But I had other races booked for when I got back from holiday. So I was trying to work out when I could do it. And so we finally came to the decision, basically that night, that I had about 3 weeks of training, I think, leading up before the event. So I texted all my mates saying, "Oh, is anyone around at this time to come help me?" And a few of them were. So I, got my training back on plan, came home, did my taper and everything. And then, the day came around, September the 13th. And then, honestly, for the first probably 60 miles or like 100 kilometers, there was, smooth sailing, all going well. My pace was just standard the whole time. Started at 6 a.m, so quite an early start, but yeah, it was all going well. Hydration, all my food and everything, all going good. And then I got to 60 miles, and each lap I did 11 laps of my hometown, and each lap I did with a different person. And my start of loop 7 I did with my mates, and we were just running along, same as it had been the whole time. It was about, I think, 8 o'clock by this point, and it was mile 62. All of a sudden I get a really, really sharp like pain in my right foot, and straight away the pain was so bad it sort of made me feel sick, and I had to lie down on the side of the path. And at the time I thought I was getting motion sickness, because one of my mates was running in front of me and I was looking down at their feet, because by this time the sun had set. So I was like, oh, I think I'm just getting motion sickness, let me run at the front of the pack. And so I go to the front, and again, after about probably 5 minutes, I'm like, I feel really sick. I had to lie down again for just a couple of seconds. And I'm like, I think I'm going to be sick. And I almost start like dry heaving, like being sick, but nothing comes out. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just being silly. So I get back up, and then we get onto a flat road, because before it was on trail. I get onto a little 50-meter stretch of road. And at that point I was like, my foot is really, really hurting. And so we slow down quite a lot, and then I go probably another 2 miles, and then I basically I'm lying down thinking the pain is now so bad. I thought at the time it was quite a smart idea to basically stamp my foot down as hard as I could. I didn't know what was wrong. I was suspecting maybe a broken bone, because I know that does happen to ultra runners. I was thinking I'm just gonna have to try and numb the pain as much as possible. So I was lay down and I just started stamping as hard as I could over and over again. And that actually, to be fair, did sort of numb it. I got about 10 minutes maybe of like proper running in again. And then, yeah, straight back to the pain. It was just numbingly painful. And at one point, I got one of my mates. Basically, I took my shoe off and was like, "Can you just press down on it as hard as possible?" Again, just trying to numb it. Which, looking back on it, is not the smartest idea. But yeah, got him to push down on it. He really didn't want to, but I was literally begging him. And then we managed to basically crawl. Well, I was crawling my way around most of the loop, and I met my dad. It was about 8 miles in, and all the other laps I'd been absolutely fine because at the end of each lap I'd go stop at my house to get food and drink, and I'd been absolutely fine and no worries. And then he realized this loop had taken quite a lot longer than the others. The others had taken about between 2 hours to 2 hours 15. And I think by this point, this loop had taken about 5 hours and I wasn't even finished. So he came and met us at about 8 miles. And by this point, we were all shaken because by this point, it's probably close to midnight. And all my friends were obviously dressed to run, as you would be, seeing as I was doing this running thing. And yeah, we were all just shivering because it was so cold, quite damp as well. So my dad wraps me up in these. I had these like half tights on. He gets me in these big waterproof jogging bottoms. I get all my jackets on. He gives some jackets to my mates. Yeah, and we have the big. Well, I say it's big. It was the final climb. Was about probably a mile, and on paper it's nothing major. It's not very steep, but after 60 miles, you really, really feel it. And that hill probably took me 45 minutes to an hour to get up. And I'm talking not even a mile probably.
With excruciating pain in your foot at the same time.
Yeah, it was just literally I was limping probably 10 meters, had to lie down, again, dry heaving, nothing came out. There was nothing. I was taking gels all day. So I had nothing in me. But yeah, just constantly dry heaving. And my mates, obviously, they were amazing. I've got to give a big shout out to them. They were perfect, but they just couldn't really do anything because there was nothing to do.
So a usual ultra marathon, am I correct in saying that it's roughly between 50 and 100 miles?
Yeah. So anything over a marathon is an ultra marathon. But yeah, most of them tend to be between 50 and 100 miles.
So you did basically 110 miles, which is 10 miles above the usual threshold of 50 to 100.
Yeah.
And you broke your foot at around mile 60.
Yeah, I believe it was mile 62. So I think it was exactly 100 kilometers in.
So that is. So you did just under half of the entire ultra marathon with your broken foot.
Yes.
And so how long did you struggle with it? Did you struggle the whole remaining 50 miles, or was it just for 10, 15 or so of it?
I would say the main struggle was, the lap I broke it, especially, and then a bit of the lap after, and then it sort of went quite numb.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the first 60 miles took me 13 hours roughly. I know the next 2 laps after that, so up to to mile 70, then mile 80, those 2 laps took me 13 hours as well.
So I'm wondering, how on earth have you managed to run 50 miles? Well, I suppose you're not running the whole thing, but continue going on this ultra marathon for 50 miles with a broken foot. What's going through your brain?
Well, to be honest, I had just told so many people I was going to do it, and I'd posted all over social media. There was one point where on the same loop, I saw my dad again, and at this point I was debating dropping out. And this was 2 miles to when I get back home and like get all my food and everything. And there's a picture of me on my Instagram actually lying in my van or his van, and I'm just looking up at the scene and thinking, I don't think I can do this anymore. Because yeah, at that point I had about 50 miles, or just under 50 miles, and I was thinking at this rate it's gonna take me days. I was hobbling along. Um, my other mate actually had just arrived. Literally, it was like a guardian angel appearing, because my mates obviously had done an amazing job. They were out for about 6 hours in the freezing cold, all like throughout from 8 until about, I think it was 1 in the morning. And they had basically been walking beside me as I crawled up. Um, and I'm lying on the side of the path in like this wet grass, and I'm just thinking, I can't do this anymore. One of my mates' dads had brought crutches for me, and I went about 50 meters in them, and it just, I thought it would really help, and it just wasn't right because the terrain was so bad. And so I'm lying there thinking I'm gonna have to quit. And I was trying to think of how to tell people that I was dropping out.
What mile was this roughly?
This would have been about mile 68, I think. Yeah, so about mile 68, I was thinking I'm done. And as I'm lying there, I just hear, "Oh, Luke, Luke," and I see a little head torch off in the distance. And it was my mate who I've raced with before. He's called Bruce, and he came and he had like walking poles.
Yes.
So a lot of ultra runners use them as well because it really helps take the weight off your feet. And he had these in his hand, and he was like, "Right, Luke, come on, get up, get up." He didn't want to hear any excuses, and he walked me again. It was 100 meters, probably took 10 minutes. Walked me to my dad, who was waiting in the van. And at this point, my mates had done more than enough, so they were like, "Right, we have to go home now," because it was freezing cold. And I was convinced I was going to drop out. And so for my own benefit, they were like, "Yeah, we're going to leave you here." Um, and so it was just me, my dad, and Bruce. And I'm sitting there. At this point, my dad's had a look at my foot as well, and he's like, it looks broken. It's swollen up all from my ankle to my toes. It was like a big balloon, and there's a real big sort of reddy brown bruise on the side.
Is that just from like the tension and the pressure that your foot's been under for the first 60 miles?
Yeah, yeah. So
You
from
didn't like trip or
no. Literally, it was on a flat grass field. We were walking up the hill, like power walking up the hills, and it was like that, and it felt like a snap. So, and it's basically, if you imagine like a plank of wood that's sort of suspended with 2 points, and you got a big gap in the middle, and you're just lightly pushing down in the center of it over and over again for 13 hours, it's likely going to crack. And I think that is the same as what happened in my foot. And so, yeah, so Bruce meets me with 2 miles until the end of the loop. And those last 2 miles, I believe, took me a little over 2 hours. Um, and Bruce was amazing. I got to give credit to him. It was in the middle of the night. It was from 1 in the morning till 3 in the morning. He probably took a step every 30 seconds, and I had my 2 walking poles, and I'm basically just I'm putting all my weight on the poles, and I'm dragging myself through, and he would watch me and then take a step, wait another 5-10 seconds, take another step. And the whole time he was just, didn't want to hear any excuses. He was helping me the whole time. It was amazing. And I finally get back to my house, and my dad's there sleeping in the kitchen, waiting for me to get back. And yeah, so he's like, right, I need to take a look at that foot. And my plan was not to sleep the whole 110 miles. And I thought, if he's poking around at it and everything, I don't think I could even be awake to sort of bear that pain. So I think I ended up having a 30-minute nap, 35-minute nap. Whilst I don't know what he did. I didn't even want to know. I didn't ask him what he was doing. Um, he had some of these like sprays, um, to like sort of like, deep freeze and stuff. It was similar to that. So I don't know what he did, but when I woke up, it was slightly better. And when I say I slept, I had my kitchen floor is wooden floor, and we laid like dust sheets. So when you're painting your house, you put those sheets out. We had one of them on the floor to stop the actual kitchen floor getting muddy, and I would just run into the house after every loop, get the food. So the dust sheet was covered in mud, and I lay down in that, no pillow, no blanket. It was one of the best sleeps I've ever had as well. Yeah, he woke me up after 30 minutes. He was like, right, do you want to carry on? And I thought at that moment, I didn't even think. I just said yes. Because if I spent any longer thinking, like, I'm lying down in a nice warm house, I would have probably said no. So straight away, I'm like, yep, let's do it.
You get comfortable straight
Exactly,
away.
exactly. So yeah, this is 3:30 in the morning. I have 40 miles to go, and I'm thinking that last lap took about 8 hours overall. And so Bruce had left me the walking poles, so that was my one little glimmer of hope. And I was thinking, right, sunrise is in about 2 to 3 hours. If I can just get to sunrise and then drop out, I'll be happy.
And what mile would you have been at sunrise, roughly?
At the current pace I was at, I'd probably be about 4 miles, mile 74. Luckily, I did start to speed up a little because obviously my dad had helped a lot with my foot. So yeah, me and him set off middle of the night. I had a hat, hood up, big massive jacket. I had one of his work jackets on, not even a running jacket. Had my big long trousers, walking poles, and yeah, the first 5 miles of that were just as painful. And the other really annoying thing is you're not supposed to take like painkillers whilst you're running, especially ibuprofen. When you run, it's really, really dangerous because basically you're quite dehydrated no matter how much water you take. So it can basically lead to, I can't remember if it's liver or kidney failure, one of the two. So quite a few ultra runners in the past have obviously done ultras, and they've been in so much pain they're taking these painkillers whilst doing it, and then they get to the finish line and they get rushed straight to hospital. So it's quite a big thing now where you don't take painkillers. So the whole time I was thinking, I just want a painkiller so badly.
So you're just running on adrenaline, like
Yeah.
your body is just using its own stuff to kill the pain off.
Exactly, yeah. So it was part, I think, mentally, because I knew my dad had been doing stuff. I don't know what he did, but I looked back at my Garmin afterwards, and it had tracked my heart rate the whole time, and whatever he did made my heart rate shoot up to 100, and I think it was 197. So I was hitting max heart rate whilst asleep. So I don't know. I don't even want to imagine what he was doing.
Wow.
But yeah, it did end up sort of numbing the pain a little bit, which made it manageable with the poles as well. So we get through, I think I did 2 laps with him. So at this point, I'm at mile 90, and the sun's risen. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, I know I was going to drop out at sunrise. I think I can go a little longer. Because I basically wanted my mates to wake up and see that I had still kept going, and then I thought at that point I'll be happy and I'll drop out. So yeah, then I get back home again and I have 20 miles left. So just under a marathon basically. And I'm thinking, I just
Just under a marathon. Yeah.
my initial aim, I was on track to finish, I think 8 in the morning, on Sunday.
That would have been 26
Yes,
hours.
yeah, 26 hours. So at this point, yeah, it's about 8 or 9 in the morning with 20 miles to go. I was like, obviously I've overshot that.
And you're basically just walking, limping at this point.
Yeah. So yeah, especially those 2 laps was every now and then I would sort of get a little good moment and I would sort of be able to almost run. But yeah, most of the time it was limping, or running at the speed of if you power walked, you'd be able to keep up. So there was no proper running. But then at that point, I think my dad was like, at this point, I think just take painkillers. So he gave me, I think he gave me 2 ibuprofen pills, and he sent me out again with one of my other mates, Ian, and that was one of the worst laps ever. Ian was amazing. He was so, because at that point I wasn't talking much. All the other laps, well, before my foot, obviously, I was talking to the people I was running with, and Ian was perfect. He basically spoke to me every now and then to keep me sane, but I was just staring at the floor, going through the motions. By this point, I'd already run the loop 9 times, so there was nothing interesting about it. And yeah, the painkillers started to set in, and I could almost sort of run again. Again, very slow run, but it was the best I'd had in a while. So I started running, and yeah, that lap, as bad as it was I think it took maybe 3 hours. So going from 8 to 3 is.
So just for reference, am I correct? It was 11 laps. Was it 10 laps?
It was well. The initial goal was 11 laps of a 10-mile route.
Of a 10, so each lap is 10 miles.
Yes, but that laps ended up being 10.2 miles. So over time, it's sort of builded. So the final, I did 10 laps of that track, and then the final lap 11, I had, I think, 7 miles to kill. So I just ended up going around, the common in Chorley Wood. I just sort of looped around there like loads of times to get rid of those last few miles. But yeah, I ended up getting back there again. At that point, I thought, I'm going to finish this now, because I knew I had 1 lap of the to get to lap 10 with my dad, and then I knew I'd overshot each lap. So I thought, if I can get to the end of this lap, then I could just run around on the common and I'll be good. So again, yeah, me and my dad set off. I hit 100 miles on that loop, which was quite a good feeling. That'd been a big goal, to run 100 miles before the age of 20. So I half got there. It was half run, half walk. Yeah, and then by the time I finished that loop, I had 7 miles to do. I was at 103 miles. My family were awake. It was sunrise, so when I came back into the kitchen, they were all there, and I sat there for about 2 minutes to get my food and water. I just could not believe that I was actually going to finish it, because it had been, by this point, it would be, I think, 3 in the afternoon, and so it was almost 12 hours since I was looking at the floor, thinking I lay there 12 hours ago, thinking I wouldn't be able to move again, and yet here I am. And so yeah, it was just like all of a sudden a really happy moment that I had 7 miles left, but I thought, I've come this far, I'm going to finish those 7 miles. And yeah, we just ran around the little Common in Chorleywood a few times, and then finished off at the Cafe in the Common because I had ran it for Mission Employable, the charity. So finished off Cafe in the Common, had all my paces were there, all my friends, and yeah, it was just an amazing moment to remember for the rest of my life. Really, it was really really great.
Just to understand how incredible that what you ran is that's 4 marathons. Am I
Yes,
correct? It's about 4 marathons is 26.2 miles in a marathon.
yes,
So
yeah,
it's yeah,
A-
about 4 marathons
yeah,
in 35 hours.
yes.
That is incredible, Luke.
Thank
That
you.
is amazing. What was your preparation like for this sort of thing? So did you say that you trained for 3 weeks?
Well, no, that was sort of the focus training for that event. So I've ran ultras since I was 18. Basically, I started training when I was 17. I've ran my whole life, but I mean, like for school and like doing 400 meters on track. Did a little bit of cross country in secondary school. But my dad has, for as long as I can remember, always ran ultras. So I think that was one of the key things, just sort of like mentally, was an ultra never really seemed that big of a deal because it was such a common thing in my life. My dad would run 10 miles a day every day. So 10 miles was sort of like just going out for your
Morning jog.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. That literally was his
Yeah.
morning jog every day. So at age, yeah, probably 17, probably year 11, just before GCSEs, I was like, I've seen my dad run all these ultras. I think I'd like to try one. So we picked it's considered a sprint in ultras. It's 43 miles long. So it's a marathon and a half, just over. So yeah, started training for that. Looking back on it, I did not do enough training. I was running about 15 miles a week, which for ultras is not enough. Um, but yeah, then I just did it through the whole of sixth form, and then by the peak of this year, first year of uni, I was running about 100 miles a week, in my peak weeks, and so that would be, I'd wake up about 7, go for about an 8 mile run. I would come back and eat, maybe do a lecture or two, go straight to the gym from my lectures, come back and eat again, go for another about 6 mile run, come back and eat, and then go straight to bed. So I was averaging about 14 miles a day, for about 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
How do you keep your body in good condition with that sort of thing? Like you must run a high risk of injury.
Well, yeah, the funny thing, I think it was a bit too much for me. So the I did 2 months of that, and then just before the week before I started my taper, for an 100 miler in Scotland, I I don't know what happened in my ankle, but obviously the constant stress my body was in was just too much. I was overtraining basically, because at my age you shouldn't be running 100 miles a week, and it wasn't very sensible for me to do so. And so I got a quite bad injury in my ankle, which led me led me to basically do my whole taper, for my race on an elliptical machine,
Yeah.
with the arms. And for anyone who doesn't know what a taper is, it's like a few weeks before your race, you'll decrease your mileage and decrease the intensity to basically make sure your legs are in
Covered.
perfect condition for the race. Um, so it's a really important part of preparing for a race. And yeah, I did my whole taper on an elliptical machine, which isn't that good. So I ended up going to Scotland, to run this 100 mile race. I think it was mile 25. My quad basically just seized up, and I thought I'd pulled it. Turns out, it was just overuse. My body still hadn't really recovered too much, and that was one of the main things that I learned from for this record attempt was that I need to be drinking more water, which because it's such a big component of ultras that not many people think about. So yeah, I think it was 54 miles in that 100 miler, and then there was wildfires, so the race got basically called off. It got called off at mile 70, and at that point I just lost all motivation. Like I came to run 100 miles. If I wasn't going to get 100 miles, I didn't really care. So I DNF'd that. That was the second DNF of the year as well, because I DNF'd one in January. So it wasn't looking good for all this time that I'd put into ultra running. 2 DNFs that year. It was really quite tough to like mentally keep motivated. But yeah, the training was just relentless every day, waking up 1 or 2 runs a day. And yeah, it was awful.
So before the 110 miler, what was the furthest you'd ran in one single race?
54 miles.
54 miles. So it was the recent one that you DNF'd.
Yeah.
And you said that like coming back after that, it was hard to get yourself like picked up again. And I can imagine it's, you know, it's kind of a fail that wasn't really in your own hands.
Mhm.
You couldn't really do much about it. You probably felt quite let down. You probably felt like you let yourself down a little bit, even though you couldn't do that much. How do you build your mentality back up after that? Do you think it made you stronger?
Well, yeah, I think it did make me, because I was during the race, I was thinking, what other sport can I do? I don't want to do ultra run anymore. I'm obviously not cut out for it. But then finishing off, and then you finish the race and you have a few days to think about it, and then you think, actually, if anything, that motivated me more, because I was just so set on proving to myself more than anything that actually I can run ultras. So yeah, the training picked straight back up again. I've dropped the mileage down a little bit, which I think helped a lot. I was running maybe 70 miles a week, which is probably still too much, but from the 100 I was doing before, it wasn't too bad. And it's just the proving to myself that I've watched my dad do it so much. I obviously have the genetics to be able to do it. I just need to be patient with it and be smart with my training, and eventually I'll get what I want.
Sounds like you have also in the feat you just completed a lot of appreciation for your friends who
Definitely.
came out and supported you. And
Yeah.
spoke a lot about your friend Bruce, who had a lot of patience with you and, you know, brought those poles, which sounds like that helped you a lot.
Absolutely.
How much importance would you say to the person looking to achieve something big like the 110 miler? How much importance would you say it is to have a good supporting network around you?
I think without my support, I would not have been able to become even close to what I did. I think having good friends and family that are going to support you. I'm not saying every race you do, you need them cheering at the end once you come in, but just having that support is such a drastic sort of helper and booster that, if I didn't have them, I think I would have probably dropped out probably mile 50. I think it's such a massive part of why I finished was because I had the whole way through, I had people right next to me, and they weren't necessarily like cheering my name. Sometimes it was just someone to talk to, because obviously 35 hours by yourself would have been awful, and having someone to just like, I was telling some of them about the holidays I've been on, hearing about what they had done in their life.
I suppose that probably distracted your foot from the pain as well, right?
Exactly. So it's such a massive. It almost felt like a steroid, because I'm so used to running by myself. All of my training I had done was mostly more or less by myself. So to then come to this and have 110 miles of running with my mates, it was just such a massive boost. And then at the end, to see everyone cheering for me, it was was really great.
I suppose a lot of it is you in your own mind, of course, like having friends and stuff helps you, but at the end of the day, you're the one that's in control of your body, and
Yeah.
you got to get your mind over your matter,
Mhm.
etc. Your friends probably reminded you what you were doing it for, and
Yeah.
the charity. Tell us about the
Yeah.
charity.
Yeah. So charity is mission employable, and it helps young people in the local area with learning disabilities to get them into work. So it's a really great charity. Yeah, my dad has done a lot for them in the past in terms of running. He did, I think, 14 marathons in 14 days for them. Um, so it was quite closely. So I had quite a lot of what's the word? I was closely linked to that charity through what my dad's been through in the past. So I thought it was quite a fitting charity for me to run for. And yeah, afterwards, they said, "Oh, anytime you want, just come in and get free food and stuff, and come and have lunch at the cafe." So it's been a really just overall great experience for everyone that's been involved in terms of all the support I've got from them, all the sort of advertisement. Yeah, and thankfully I've raised quite a lot of money for them, so it's really, really good feeling.
And you also, I believe, hold a record now.
Yes.
What's the classification for your record?
So I now hold the record for longest distance ran by a British teenager in one go. Um, and the youngest known Brit to run a trail 100. So that's two nice little things on my CV.
Yeah, nice. And it overtook the previous one, which was actually set this year too.
Yes, I
And that
believe
was how far?
101 miles, I believe.
So how did you feel once you had surpassed that?
I wanted to drop out 102, but um, yeah, I thought I've told everyone now I'm doing 110. Again, I think that was quite a big motivator for me that I just I don't think I could have faced anyone if I
Mm.
dropped out. And so yeah, I thought, all right, 102. Technically, I've finished now, but I'm just gonna push through to 110 and really give it my all.
It says a lot for people's willpower when they try and do things alone and don't tell anyone about it. And
Yeah,
a lot of people don't want to tell people about the stuff they're doing because
yeah,
they don't want the reward already. They want to do it without, people going, "Oh, that's so great," and all
yeah,
that sort of
yeah,
thing. But I suppose for you running this, you need to set yourself the bar that you want to reach so
yeah,
that you don't let people down. Did you feel like
yeah.
you would let people down if
Oh,
you
absolutely.
hadn't achieved it?
Yeah.
And your dad's an ultra marathon runner.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about your dad.
Yeah. So he's been running ultras probably yeah since I was born, pretty much. He's actually in the like Centurion is like one of the biggest ultra running sort of organizers in the UK, and he's in the Hall of Fame of most ultras completed for them. So yeah, he's a pretty smart guy when it comes to that sort of stuff. So he's basically sort of been like my coach um through my whole ultra running training. Um, he doesn't run so much now, but yeah, especially when I was getting started into the ultra running, um, sort of like looking to compete, he would take me out on runs. I remember he took me on a half marathon once, um, and I was still relatively new to the ultra running, and that for him was like his little speed session. We went for it was a similar loop actually to what I did for the record. I can remember about 10 miles in, I was gasping for air, and he was like, "Right, Luke, I'm gonna leave you here now because I need to speed up to get my speed down. I'll see you at home." And he just shot off, and I was thinking, how on earth can you even do that? Because I thought at that point I was pretty fit. Because I'd been running 400 for school. I was, yeah, I thought I was fit. Turns out I really wasn't. And he sort of set the bar quite high straight away. And so then at that point, I was like, right, I definitely need to train more. And I think that, again, having someone in your family who's that sort of prestigious in the sport motivates you a lot to like, almost like, right, I kind of want to beat him. So a race I did in January, it was 45 miles. And I was on pace to beat his record. Um, and again, 5 miles from the finish line, my hip flexor just gave way. Probably again, it was the not enough drinking, so I think it was more of like a like insane cramp more than anything, to the point where I couldn't basically move my leg forward. Yes, I had to DNF that as well. So it was, as you can tell, it's been a rough year for races.
I can imagine that's really tough on your mindset and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
Most people, when they hear of ultra marathons, I think probably the most famous person to run ultra marathons is David Goggins, right? He's probably brought a lot of attention to ultra running and that sort of stuff. Did you listen to any of his advice, any of his, motivational stuff to keep you going?
I think the thing is with Goggins, at some points he's like the best person to think about. Like I can remember, especially some of the it's more with the training more than anything rather than the races. Sometimes when it's like night training in the winter is one of my least favorite things, and it's you go out about 11 at night, with your head torch. It's guaranteed to be raining as well, freezing cold. I feel at in those sort of situations he's really great because he just gets you out the door. But when it comes to races, um, most of the time I don't listen to anything at all because I sort of understand what I need to do and I don't need motivation to race because it's what I've been training for. Um, but I think, I don't know, with Goggins, it's almost too extreme sometimes. So I feel like when I just want to go out for an easy run, it's a nice sunny day in the summer, I feel like I don't need him screaming in my ear. I just I'm maybe not
Keep fucking
enjoying it.
running.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it definitely has his place, and obviously some things he's done are mental.
Yeah.
He's just finished that
Moab.
Moab 240. That's nuts, and I
Yeah.
don't think I'll ever do that. But yeah, he has a time and place that he definitely helps.
You said as well that you like when you're actually doing the running, you know what you need to do. I think that's the difference between motivation and discipline. A lot of people do rely on motivation, and motivation is always going to fade.
Yeah.
So what matters when the motivation goes is how well you can follow your own discipline, keep your willpower, that sort of thing. Did you do anything to build up your self-discipline in general, not just towards running, but like as a person?
Well,
I suppose all the training for the running and stuff, that's
yeah,
again and again and again, you're building up that discipline,
yeah.
pushing beyond your limits and that sort of thing. Do you have any other practices that you do to keep your mind in check?
I'd say in year 11, I sort of built what I think is quite a good like foundation for discipline. I was really into sort of, I would come home from school and do push-ups in my bedroom for the whole night. I would then meditate and everything and do all these like good practices. Um, go to bed early and wake up early, even on a weekend when you want to sleep in. And I think doing that at quite a young age has now led to me sort of being quite disciplined. But then again, also I feel like I've lost some of that discipline as well because now I stay up late sometimes. Sometimes I skip gym if I'm not feeling like it. But then again, I always go for my run. So I think it is sort of one of the biggest things I found that made it actually easier is trying to decide your main focus and put all your discipline into that, knowing that obviously I'm not perfect, so some other things may slip up. But as long as my main focus is getting all it needs in terms of focus, then that's all I can really control.
So you achieved you've now hold the record. You achieved what you wanted to achieve. You completed the race. Amazing stuff. What's next? So it was a month ago. You're
Yeah.
still you're just about recovering from your broken foot.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
said you plan on getting back to running again soon.
Yeah. Hopefully training starts Monday.
Monday.
Um, just I want to win a race, actually finish a race as well. And then well, I have long-term goals of winning. There's the big ultra running race in the world is UTMB, um, which is in France in the Alps, and that's like the World Cup of ultra running.
Is that how far is that one?
There's like a whole race week, and there's a 50K, 100K, and 100 miles. Obviously the big prestigious one's the 100 miles. So obviously sometime in my life I would like to win that, but I'm thinking that's 10 years time from now.
And it's in the Alps, so it's a lot of
Yes.
up and down hill.
I think it's 10,000 meters of elevation.
Wow.
And they do it in about 20 hours. So yeah, that's the long term, like lifetime goal almost. For now, I think just number one, I've joined my athletics team at uni with the main goal of just get faster, because I have my aerobic, like sort of zone 2 base is quite good, but I'm not very fast.
Just for the audience, describe what aerobic zone 2 is.
So that's basically like your slow, easy jogs. So if you think like a sprint would be zone 5. If you like run pretty hard, but you can sustain it for like a 5-10K, that'd be probably zone 4, top of zone 4. Zone 2 is like if you take your dog on a run around the local park. So it basically, I can run for a long time.
In zone 2.
Yeah. But the pace that I reach isn't very fast. As in, I'm nowhere. My zone 2 for my age is quite impressive. My speed is, if anything, below average. So the main goal now is to get my speed up to a point that can match my sort of aerobic base, and then I think I'll be quite a lot more competitive in races.
So the higher the pace, the higher the zone.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. And it sounds like you've got like the big macro goal of, what was it, UTMB?
UTMB, yes.
And I've heard of other crazy ones, probably through David Goggins, but
yeah.
What's the one in America that's through
Badwater?
Badwater? What's
Yeah.
that? 135.
135. Yeah.
And that's in the peak of summer.
Yeah, is it Death Valley?
Death Valley. Yeah. It gets to like mid 40s degrees Celsius. That is, I think.
There's sort of two different ways you can go down ultra running. You can go down sort of, that's what David Goggins does. He does the mental
ridiculous
stuff, yeah. Or you can go down the faster, more prestigious ones, where it's more of an actual race.
Okay.
Whereas the one David Goggins does,
can you survive?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're mental, but they're not held as highly in the ultra running world, because they tend to be, as like you said, more as if you can survive through it rather than how fast can you do it and what place do you come. So I'm leaning more towards the faster, more race type ones than the how close can you get to death.
A lot of successful people place a lot of value on goal setting.
Yeah.
So you have the goal of achieving the 100-miler in UTMB.
Mm-hmm.
And that's clearly a macro goal, because you said it's 10 years time or whatever. Do you have any micro goals too?
I was thinking about that. I'm actually trying to think of some, because like you said, setting little goals is such a sort of important part of, especially with running training, is you want to have little goals that you're constantly hitting to keep you developing and keep you sort of motivated. And right now, I actually don't have any really. I think that UTMB is such a massive goal of mine that I think just the training itself, hitting each training session as hard as I can, um, and just staying consistent is just such a massive goal that I haven't really thought about any other goals that I'd like to have yet. But I definitely need to.
I suppose everything like you do is like a build up to it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you ran like normal marathons? Have you, or are you just straight ultra marathon runner?
I've done a few training in my 100-mile weeks. Some of my long runs would be a marathon. I go to uni in Loughborough, and I went to see my mate over in Leicester, which is exactly a half marathon there and then a half marathon back. So went to see them. But yeah, apart from that, I've it's only been in training. I've run anything over. Yeah, I've never competed in a marathon, never competed in a half marathon. I think I would like to, but again, it's the speed that's sort of put me off that. Because I think if I did a marathon, I would not be competitive at all. And I'm quite a competitive person when it comes to running, and I like to be at the front. And I know in a marathon, I would be middle of the pack, so it just doesn't really
Because you can't run at a zone 2, right? You've got to run
exactly.
in 3, maybe, if you want to achieve a good
Yeah, yeah. So
time.
it's like I gotta definitely gotta get my speed up for that. But I think I will in the future.
Mm.
Definitely give them a go.
Awesome. So the last guest I had on, I asked him a question that was from the previous guest to him,
Go on.
and he answered it. And I asked this guest the same thing, and he would like to know what your, I guess we kind of already answered it, but what are your main goals and objectives in life?
In life or in running,
Either.
I'd say definitely for running is UTMB. Maybe not winning it, but at least being competitive in it, and just being competitive in ultra running as a whole. For life in general, I think just doing whatever, obviously without having negative consequences to other people, but just doing whatever I really want to do. So if it's like, obviously training can sometimes get quite intense, but if I really want to go to the pub with my mates, I like to think of, in 50 years time when I'm sitting around, obviously I won't be running by that point, will I have regretted maybe not going to the pub with my mates? And so I try and get the balance as best as I can. Obviously, sometimes running is limits that, but just not having many regrets when I get really old. And I think that's quite a good way to just live by in general, really.
I really like that
Mm.
actually, because to achieve long-term things, a lot of the time you have to sacrifice
Yeah.
short-term enjoyments.
Hmm.
And I always say, short-term gain is long-term pain.
Yeah.
Short-term pain is long-term gain. But the
Exactly.
problem is if you forever live in short-term pain or short-term sacrifice, yeah, you might, have incredible fitness
Yeah. Yeah.
in the long run,
Yeah.
but all those years you feel like you might have wasted. So I quite like the fact that, that's your aim for life, is
Hmm.
being able to get that balance right, is be able
Yeah.
to sacrifice things when needs be, but also when you've done pretty well for yourself, go and enjoy yourself.
I think also getting a balance right can help you more than you think in terms of, say, well, like the record I've just done. If I in year 11 and year 12, I sort of kept to myself a little more and didn't really go out too much. Um, and if I had stayed doing that and not tried to make more friends and gone out and hung out with my mates, I probably wouldn't have had them help me in my run that I've just done. And
Mm.
so I think just because it doesn't directly benefit your main goal, I don't think it's always a bad thing to even just go and hang out with your mates, go to a party. I'm not saying get hammered every weekend, but I certainly,
Invest time with them, right?
yeah, yeah. And even things were like drinking, if you every once in a while, just go and have a few drinks. And I really don't think it's that much of a negative impact, that especially that, like, I always think, and like I said, 50 years time, looking back on it, would I regret if I didn't do it? And most of the time, it's actually, I think I wouldn't. So,
And what would you like to ask my next guest? Bear in mind, you have no clue who it is.
um,
You can ask them anything.
what would I like to ask? Mm,
Take your time. You can ask them anything.
I think maybe something to do with discipline. Sort of like, how do you stay disciplined when you've had repeated failures and things that haven't gone your way, similar to what I've had this year in terms of ultras? Just how
That is the ultimate discipline, isn't it?
exactly
To keep going when you fail.
keeps going wrong over and over and over again, not just once, but consistently, and you keep then showing up afterwards. And sort of how do you
keep going?
exactly? Yeah.
Cool. Luke, pleasure. Thank you, my man.